Thanks for staying on. Now, about 100 people trapped in a building submerged by floodwater at Abuabu in Kumasi following heavy downpour were rescued on Sunday morning. And fire personnel spent hours draining stagnant water from the four-story structure to enable them bring occupants and their children to safety. Correspondent Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin witnessed the operation and has come through with this one. Well, for all over 10 hours, residents were trapped in the building without food and water. The entire first floor of the four-story was submerged to heights described by security personnel as dangerous. Occupants, mostly tenants on the first floor, managed to escape, but they lost all their belongings. People were uncertain about their fates as they remained upstairs until fire service personnel arrived at the scene. City authorities had earlier earmarked the building and others around the area for demolition on Friday, June 26, but it's unclear why the exercise never took place. The Municipal Chief Executive Officer, Nuruddin Hamdan, however, would not respond to queries on the matter. Well, our Ashanti Regional Correspondent, Mohammed Nuruddin, joins us now with the very latest on the Abuabu flood. So, Nuruddin, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Have the floodwaters receded now?
Yes,
Nuruddin. I was asking whether or not the floodwaters have receded now. What's the situation now?
Yes, it has. It has. But the residents are not happy that it wasn't completely, cleared up. And so that is the challenge they have now. They expected the fire service personnel to get everything out of the building, but that wasn't the situation. But, you know, the fire service personnel were also telling me that that is not their duty. Their responsibility was to rescue the lives of the people, and they did exactly that. So for them to get everything out of the building is another issue that the residents have to, look at it. So for now, earlier this morning, I spoke to some residents, and they said they told me that NADMO hasn't come yet. But I'm gonna go back there and find out whether they have really attended to them or not, and then we'll pick it from there.
I see. So some of these people who actually were rescued by the fire service personnel, where are they now? Where did they put up last night?
Well, some of them, especially those at the first floor, have to, find a different place to spend the night. And those even at the second floor are afraid that the building could be very weak any time soon. So they are also finding their way somewhere to leave. I must say that the building itself was earmarked for demolition on the 25th of this month, and some other buildings around the area were also earmarked. But fortunately, the exercise didn't come off. We do not know why it didn't come off. I tried speaking to the Municipal Chief Executive, Hamidan Nuruddin, to find out exactly what prevented them from embarking on that exercise. Because where these buildings are located is clearly a flood-prone area, and if there is any heavy downpour, there's nothing they can do about it. It would surely be flooded. This place has been, affected for so many years now. I have seen so many floods in that particular area. So we do not know why that exercise didn't come off, but surely we're going to find out why it didn't come off and what he's been telling the residents.
Nuruddin, you mentioned that residents seem to have certain concerns about the manner in which the fire service carried out the operation, as in they evacuating them and taking them out of the particular structure. Can you shed more light on that? What exactly were those concerns?
I didn't hear you well, but what I was saying is that the fire service personnel came to help the residents. They told me that their responsibility was to save lives, and they did exactly that. They got the residents out of the building. But the residents are complaining that there is still some water in the building. I saw it myself, and that is their fear. They fear that if there is any rain, in subsequent days, the place is going to be worse. So they expected the fire service personnel to, get everything out of the building so that they would be able to have peace of mind. But as I'm speaking now, the first floor, I do not think somebody can live there for now until that portion of the water is being cleared off.
So now they are raising issues. Now the problem is the fire service personnel are saying they are not directly in charge of that. So who are they addressing these things to?
There were no, specific on who should do that, okay. But they are saying that is not part of their responsibility because they had to, it took them close nearly 9 hours. They started since morning, and they told me that they were going to use for 4 hours, at least 4 hours would be okay. But after the time we returned there, it was 9 hours. And then they had to prime the water, as they call it, out of the building. And then afterwards, he also told me the level at which the water is now, their pipe cannot, clear it off because of the nature of their machine. When they sink it in, it really pulls some kind of air. And so at that level, they've really done their best. They really helped the residents. So for now, even with that, that was just I helped that they did to the residents because it is not part of their responsibility to clear up flood waters. But what they are supposed to do is to make sure lives are being protected and safe.
Mohammed Noordin, thank you very much for that update. That was Ashanti Regional Correspondent Mahmoud Mohammed Noordin there. Let's still stay in the Ashanti region, and some youth of Aboabo in Kumasi have staged a demonstration against the Asokore Mampo Municipal Chief Executive for alleged negligence and, quote, lack of concern. Now, they accuse Noordin Hamidan of failing to extend a bridge which links the community to the city center, resulting in perennial floods in the area. Correspondent Mahmoud Mohammed Noordin again has more.
The predominantly Muslim community is the worst hit by floods following Saturday night downpour. Amid wild chant, the protesters vented their frustration by mounting roadblocks and burning lorry tires, which disrupted vehicular movement. Police had a tough time trying to restrain them, but to no avail.
This time around, they decided to hit the road by blocking the road. It may sound normal to them, but on the general societal usage of the road, they may not have that singular right. Others also have the right to use it.
This is the main drainage system in the community. Over the years, it has been a no-go area for road users whenever it rains. These excavators were dispatched here to silt the drainage, but residents say little had been done to address the challenge. They want Alhaji Hamidan either to see to the rehabilitation of the bridge or step aside for someone who can.
When it rains, our main problem is the bridge, because the water does not flow. If authorities do not break down this bridge and reconstruct it, we would be at great risk.
The other lane, side and side, you are too concrete in the coast.
We have big men who should be addressed, who should be told what to do and what not to. So now we are able to convince them that they should, extinguish the water, the fire, so that cars will use the bridge as normally.
Some National Democratic Congress executives in the Saboba district of the Northern Region have ravished calls for the removal of Adolf Ali from office as the district chief executive. Now, a group calling itself the Aggrieved NDC Youth in Saboba earlier at a news conference threatened to chase the DCE out of office if President John Dramani Mahama ignored calls for his removal.
Among several allegations, accused the DCE, Adolf Ali, of corruption and forming a radical group to terrorize NDC members who are opposing his stewardship. But some NDC executives in the Saboba constituency at a counter news conference jumped to the defense of Adolf Ali and described the aggrieved NDC youth allegation as frivolous.
The allegations are thus mischievous, frivolous, unfounded, and without merit. Yes. These are enemies of the party whose intentions are meant to disintegrate the rank and file of the party. It is therefore mischievous to allege that the father of the district, that is the DCE, has terrorist boys. In effect, it is shameful and unfortunate for this so-called group who claim to really love the NDC party to turn a peaceful district like Sabuba as a terrorist den.
The constituency secretary, Joshua Chama Yadang, urged President Mahama to ignore calls for Adolf Ali's dismissal as the move could tout government's transformational agenda in the area.
The party and the entire executive body are not part of the activities of this aggrieved unknown youth group. It was therefore unfortunate that some supposed NDC youth at this crucial time will be calling on the president to fire the DCE just to achieve their parochial interests. Lastly, the party and then the youth are prepared to expose the faceless individuals behind this, since their grand agenda is to pull the party and the president into the gutter.
He also advised NDC members in the area to use laid-down procedures in addressing their grievances and asked them to also desist from character assassination to satisfy their paymasters.
Industry Minister Kweku Rekits-Hagan is asking fishermen in Cape Coast to use the proceeds from their trade to help better the lives of people who live in fishing communities. Now, according to him, the development of the coastal areas should not be seen as the sole prerogative of the government. Mr. Rekits-Hagan also says plans are far advanced to institute a pension scheme for fishermen.
It is that time of the year when fishermen expect a bumper harvest, but there seems to be a challenge getting their fair share of the harvest. Luckily for these fishermen in Cape Coast, help has come at the right time. The Member of Parliament for the area, Kweku Rekits-Hagan, has presented a tanker of premixed fuel and other fishing gear to facilitate their expeditions. Mr. Rekits-Hagan said this is the first tranche of fishing materials that will be presented to them.
The fishermen need a lot of support, especially at this time of the year. That is why, as the Member of Parliament, I am here to support them with the premixed fuel. There are about 300 fishermen here. You can imagine the harvest they will have.
The fishermen, mostly from Brofuyedru, were happy with the gesture by the MP and expressed optimism about the coming fishing season.
Minister for Lands, Forestry and Natural Resources, Ni Osa Mills, has underscored the importance of small-scale mining in the country. He said apart from the employment it generates, small-scale mining contributes about 34% of the country's budget, although illegal activities associated with it makes it a major concern. He made these comments in a speech read on his behalf at the inauguration of the Wa Municipal Mining Committee in Wa.
Minerals Commission, a member.
Well, as
mining or illegal,
our forests have been destroyed or even been completely removed. The water bodies have been completely contaminated, and some may even dry up. And our very existence, particularly those of us from this part, where we only survive on subsistence agriculture, the farmlands are now all being turned into pits for mining. So I think that it's timely that this committee is coming to existence, and it's my hope that the committee will be able to help regulate the activities, some of the small-scale mining, by getting them appropriate places. I will now call on the chief that
about 10% of our GDP in this country comes from mining. And as you get to the small-scale mining, legal, legitimate small-scale mining contributes about 34% to the national budget. Of course, gold, not national budget, gold production in the country. Small-scale mining also, generates employment to the roof. And of course, in 1989, when the law was amended to accommodate small-scale mining, the strength of it was not to make it as a business for anybody, but to generate some employment over a period to the roof. People who, when they, and it was purely artisanal, using small-scale implements to, mine, and which in itself did not very obstructively, negatively impact the environment. Today, as we said, a lot of negative activities are being carried out in the northern sector, including the Upper West region, which actually, if we do not do something to stem it, it's going to negatively impact on our very survival. Come to my knowledge.
Come to my knowledge.
In the discharge of my official duties.
In the discharge of my official duties.
Except as may be required.
Except as may be required.
For the discharge of my official duties.
For the discharge of my official duties.
Or as may be specifically permitted by law.
As may be specifically permitted by law.
So help me God.
So help me God.
President John Dramani Mahama has named some roads across the country which are to benefit from the Ghana Cocoa Roads Rehabilitation Program. Now, responding to an appeal by Chief of Boma, Katiche Brahima Kwafuakoto, for roads in his area to be constructed, the president said roads linking Boma in the Tano North district of the Bonahafu region to other parts of the country will benefit from the program. Correspondent Nesta Kafuajima has more.
John Dramani Mahama was speaking at a deba of the chiefs and people of Boma during the final lap of his two-day working visit to the Bonahafu region. He said the Tapa Bona Tanoso as well as the Boma Donya Nkwanta roads are to be constructed under the Ghana Cocoa Road Rehabilitation Program.
We'll fix the roads. The revenue we get from export of cocoa is used to develop roads in the country, and we will now channel it to the cocoa towns so that transportation will be smooth.
The chief of Boma, Brahima Kwafuakoto, who spoke through the container of the area, Nana Asamoah-Kofi, earlier commended the president for executing development projects in and around Boma. He appealed to the contractor currently working on the Boma-Tapa Road to quicken construction works in order to alleviate the plight of the people. President Mahama later commissioned a newly constructed Boma Polyclinic, which will serve 26 towns and villages in the area.
Well, we're taking a break here. When we come back, we have some business stories for you. Don't go away.